So, one issue of some contention in the great abortion debate that never, ever seems to end, um, the health and well-being of the mother. Um, a lot of people, I've heard this for years now, insist that there is no such thing as a life-saving abortion. You don't need to abort a baby if a woman's developing pregnancy-related life conditions like preeclampsia. You can just deliver the baby is premature, but the baby's okay, and so you don't need to have an abortion. And that sounds really nice. I would love to believe that. I would love to believe that every baby gets to live, and rainbows and puppies and butterflies. I wanted to double check on that one because it's medicine. Weird things happen in medicine. And sure enough, weird things have happened. There was a woman who developed preeclampsia. She was 20 weeks pregnant. And the youngest preemie to ever survive was born at 21 weeks and 5 days. And that was a record that was set in 2014. So they couldn't save the baby. And this lady was going downhill fast. And the doctors basically sat her down and told her, either the baby dies or you and the baby die. And so she had a life-saving abortive procedure. I can't really imagine what that's like. I had the ectopic pregnancy. It was a similar set of circumstances, but I'd only been pregnant for 8 weeks. I can't imagine getting all the way to 20 weeks and having something like that happen. It sounds horrible. But there is at least one case of an abortion that took place to save the mother's life. If it's happened once, it probably has happened more than once, and it will probably happen again. And that's good to be aware of. Another case, and this is a very different set of circumstances, took place in Australia. It was at the Royal Women's Hospital in Australia. And a woman came in. She was 40 years old. She had her husband with her. And she was 32 weeks pregnant. Very, very pregnant. Like, she could have delivered a healthy baby at that point. It would have been a little bit premature, but she could have done it. She was demanding an abortion. She had found out recently, that her baby had dwarfism, and she did not want that baby anymore. She threatened to kill herself if she could not have an abortion. She met with 5 different specialists. One of them was a psychiatrist. All 5 specialists were very convinced that she was going to kill herself if she did not have the abortion she was demanding. They tried convincing her of alternatives, delivering the baby, putting the baby up for adoption. That way she wouldn't have to deal with it. She insisted on abortion. So, in light of the fact that she was suicidal, they gave her the abortion that she requested. They gave the baby a shot of, I'm going to assume it was digoxin, because usually people use digoxin. It's a heart medication, but there are other chemicals that they use that kills the baby instantly. It could be less humane, I suppose. Usually in late-term abortions, they take about 3 days to perform. A late-term, like 3rd trimester abortion takes 3 days. And that's all 3 days of procedural stuff that has to happen. They have to dilate you first. That takes about 2 days. They usually give the shot of digoxin at the very beginning, and then they dilate you. And that way, if anything happens, the baby is already dead. But yeah, this particular woman ended up giving birth to a stillborn daughter who did show signs of having dwarfism. That case received very negative attention in Australia, understandably. The 5 specialists who worked with her all were put on suspension. It was later reinstated because they had been acting in good faith. Personally, I think that the woman was more to blame than the medical care providers who performed the abortion. Because if a woman is threatening to kill herself, and her baby by extension, but to kill herself, if she doesn't receive an abortion, and you refuse her the abortion, and she kills herself, are you liable? Like, I think she had their hands tied. And maybe that's just me. I don't know how medical laws work in Australia. It just really sounded to me like she had their hands tied. It's a horrible case. Like, I just look at it and it's like, that's, unless there is something really, really big about that situation that I was not aware of, and we wouldn't be able to know because I'm sure some of it is confidential patient information. Unless there was something really horrible going on that that none of us know about, she just sounds like a horrible woman. Like, she could have just given birth. So yeah, there was a group for people with dwarfism, and the spokesperson of that group came out and said, you know, we're short, so what? And honestly, yeah, so what, you know? That's not a thing to kill a baby over. I lost the link to the website that I was reading that was talking about this. Well, one of the websites I was reading where this case was mentioned, that was talking about another woman later on, like shortly after this event occurred, who had a non-viable pregnancy and went to the Royal Women's Hospital and said, I have a non-viable pregnancy, I need an abortion. And they turned her down because they had gotten so much criticism for allowing this woman with the one baby with dwarfism to have an abortion. After that, they were like, no, I'm sorry, we can't help you. So honestly, a lot of people got screwed over in that situation. Most of all, the baby in question. It happened like, gosh, I think 18 years ago. It was a long time ago, but I thought it was a very interesting case because now with the changes in laws in New York and the proposed changes that were, I believe, struck down in Virginia, cases like that can occur. Like, if you're pro-choice and you're looking at pro-lifers who are saying they're gonna kill innocent babies, you know, right up till birth, and they can do that on, you know, something so mild as a claim of depression. You know, it's happened once and it can happen again. And that's horrible. That's horrible. I suppose the goal is to make laws in such a way that situations where the health and well-being of the mother can be properly attended to, while also avoiding situations like that. I have the feeling that situations like the one in Australia will occur no matter what. Every once in a while, someone is brazen enough and crazy enough to, I don't know, to cheat the system. Now, should all abortions be banned because of that one person who's brazen enough to cheat the system? Well, it would really suck for that one poor woman who lost her 2 sons and nearly died herself. It would really suck for her. And it would have sucked for me too. I know that with my own situation, and maybe this will be comforting for some people to know that this is how it worked. The doctor wouldn't even meet with us until we had a a diagnosis, like not just a couple of positive screenings, but a diagnosis that was very solid. We weren't going to get an abortion until we had a diagnosis that was very solid. When we met with her, she sat down at her computer. She had wonderful bedside manner. She was very sweet and kind to us. She gave me tissues. I needed tissues. But she sat down at her computer, asked us if it was okay if she typed while we talked, and basically wrote down everything I said, asked me everything I knew about the condition, why I wanted to have an abortive procedure, wrote it all down, had it all on record, you know, made sure that we wanted it for, I don't know, ethical reasons, probably not ethical. I don't know if you would call them ethical, but the thing was, number one, we had been warned multiple times before that it was very difficult to obtain an abortive procedure at that hospital because it was very difficult to find staff that was willing to perform it. Which, I was on the phone with the nurse and she told me that, and I was like, well, that makes sense. Nobody wants to kill a baby. And she was like, well, we don't really see it that way. You know, she was very quick to reassure me, but I see it that way. And I'm sure a lot of people see it that way. I was very, very grateful that people were willing to help me when my son was dying. But I had no guarantees, and there's something very, very comforting in the knowledge that his condition was severe enough, his diagnosis was solid enough, our reasoning was sound enough, that a medical team was willing to perform an abortion for us. I'm sure there are a lot of women who would be very offended at the idea of having to justify their decision to medical staff. I found it very comforting. I found it very comforting to know that they wouldn't have done it if they thought I was being trivial about it. I found it very comforting that in the paperwork that I had to sign, they warned me that if something went wrong and the baby was born alive, they were compelled by law to keep the baby alive and keep him comfortable and take care of him as a person. That meant a lot to me. And I think that that's a good way to handle situations like this. You can't keep everybody alive. But at the very least, you need to treat people like they're people. Even people who are going to die. But anyway, yeah. I thought those two cases were very interesting. I thought setting them side by side was a really interesting look at abortions for the health of the mother, because a lot of laws that are either now in the books or being proposed are about, you know, the mental health of the mother, and I don't know if that's, I struggle to understand how that's a good thing. It makes me a little bit leery. Pregnancy is a crazy time. Your hormones are out of whack. You're gonna have mood swings. You're gonna feel weird. I personally spend every pregnancy grumpy. Really, really grumpy. And the first trimester, I spend it puking and grumpy. And I don't enjoy being pregnant. I love meeting the baby. I do it so that I can meet the baby. And 3 times out of 5, I have managed to meet a baby at the end of it. But I don't. I mean, I'm going to try and look into it more. I'm going to try and do more research, but I struggle with this whole abortion for the mental well-being of the mother. Like, I'm sure there are cases. I'm going to try and look for some really good examples of where a woman was having some serious mental health problems and actually needed an abortion. But right now it's kind of, I don't know, if that case in Australia left a sour taste in your mouth, it should. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later.